Hello and welcome to this very special interview. Joining me today is one of the tallest leaders in the insurance sector. In fact, someone who's been pretty much there since the time private insurance opened up in India. More than 25 years of experience across different insurance companies. Shanai Ghosh is now the managing director and CEO at Zuno General Insurance. But through her career, she's worked across fields in life insurance, general insurance. It's very difficult actually to meet someone who has been with the sector right from inception and continues to, be driving a story there. Thank you very much, Shanai. It's wonderful speaking to you. While one has seen your progress over the years, it's, I think, the first time I'm getting a chance to interview you. So thank you so much for coming by on the on this show. My first question to you, today we're going to put the focus on health insurance, and I hope that we have a series of conversations across different aspects of insurance. But let's talk about health for today. COVID saw a big spike in levels of probably urgency, and there was a lot of talk around general health insurance. Has that petered off according to you, or is it still high that people see it as a necessity?
I think awareness has definitely spiked, but the urgency in buying has tapered off, I would say. Public memory is short. Look at how we behave now versus what we used to behave. So the same thing holds for health insurance also. So nobody says that it's not good. Acha hai, lena chahiye, all of that is there. But agle saal le lenge, kal le lenge. So it's the procrastination continues now. Because again, people have forgotten COVID. It's been 2 years, people have forgotten. And the urgency has dropped off. So there is, in fact, even during COVID, Vivek, during waves, it was very interesting to see. The moment you would have a wave, you would have more health sales happening. And between waves, it would taper off. So if you see it happening, that's when it drives the urgency, and that's when people start buying. So obviously, it was expected also that post-COVID, it will taper off a little bit. I wouldn't say that, it's gone back to the previous levels. I wouldn't say that. I would definitely say that the trajectory has shifted. So the trajectory of both awareness and purchase has shifted. But the same urgency that you saw in purchase at the time of COVID, when it was really a big thing on our minds, is definitely tapered off.
Shanai, you're a great believer in technology. And, one of the problems that health insurance has faced is that I think one of the things that put off people was, and one of the things, I'll come to the others as well, was, the paperwork, the process, the fact that, you go through medical checks and, you fill up forms after forms. Is that something that you've been able to change? I know that during COVID, most insurers, in fact, all insurers, very quickly adapted towards technology. So you were even having your assessment done on a video call and stuff like that. Has buying health insurance become far more simpler and easier? And if you could tell us how easy or simple is it from a point of view of a person who's made up her mind to buy health insurance?
So, Vivek, I'll break this into the answer into two parts. One is buying and one is claiming. Okay. Buying is completely dependent on us, right? The insurance industry. And I would really think that the industry has transformed the buying journey, at least. It is completely digital, largely digital. There may be customers who are not comfortable with digital, so for them, maybe other routes are available. But for companies like us, which are digital only, we have only the digital way of buying. The customer may choose to buy it on our website or at a partner website or through a partner. But the way of buying will be completely digital, okay? Earlier, you had the process of, signing. They used to call it wet signature. That was required to, be the basis of the contracts that what. But even before COVID, I'll tell you our experience. We had written to the regulator and uh, we had got the permission to say that we will use OTP based authentication of whatever is there on the digital form, and we started that. So for us, it was always paperless, it was always OTP based. But after COVID, the regulator brought out a dispensation that allowed everyone to use it, and then everyone migrated to it. So now, largely, I think the entire application and sales process is completely online. It's OTP based. KYC, which has been introduced in the industry recently, which is on 1st of January, for the GI industry at least, it's introduced. That is also largely, that's also digital, because all of us do completely digital KYC. There is no paper exchange, anything. So the buying process, I would say, has become very, very simple and very digital. If there are customers who prefer it other ways, there are probably options, but it's largely digital. Claiming process, I would say that it's not as digital as we would like it to be, because there is a huge constituent called the healthcare industry, right? So they are not as digital, I think, as the insurance industry is, and therefore, whenever it comes to interacting with them, there is paperwork involved. But for us as an industry, what we can do is the stuff that we need is all digital. But if there is a bill, etc., unfortunately that integration is still not there, that all the data, the bill, the hospital, etc., papers will come in digitally. So that integration is still not there. But there's good news there, Vivek, because the government is creating a health stack, health claim, which is this ABDHM health stack, which includes Aadhaar IDs. Incidentally, we were the first insurer to integrate with ABDHM to allow people to generate Aadhaar IDs. So, in fact, when we did this integration, Aadhaar had to create a section called insurers because we were the only one. And now from our website, you can generate Aadhaar IDs. So customers actually come to our website and generate Aadhaar IDs. So that is one. So you will get a health ID, and that health ID, and there's a consent layer being built, and all participants of the healthcare industry, whether it's provider, which could be a hospital, doctor, lab, etc., so on and so forth, or a user or a payer like us, we are all supposed to be on that platform. And there is a health claims exchange being created. All insurers are mandated to be on that health claims exchange. I don't know what we have a regulator, so the regulator can mandate us, and we are. And hospitals will, as they start coming onto it, then we will have a truly end-to-end digital process, so that all that the customer needs to go and show a digital card, maybe, of saying I have this policy, and then from then on everything will be digital. Of course, there will be a consent layer, so the customer will have to consent to share that information with whoever it needs to be shared with. But after that, it'll all be digital. I think it's early days yet, but I'm very optimistic in that in the next 3 to 5 years, we will see a transformation in the way claims are serviced in the industry, in the country, and that will truly change the orbit of insurance.
Shanai, when one reads data, which is, put out by a regulator, it shows 90% or high 90%, closer to 100% kind of claim processing in many cases. But on the ground, if you look at the chatter and complaints of people, that still seems to be an issue with people, that, I took the policy, I went, and I didn't get my claim. How else does one explain the fact that, despite every financial planner in this country saying that the first investment you make should be a health insurance? And as you rightly said, awareness, and many surveys have shown that awareness levels went up. Yet the takeoff is not there. One could be premiums, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But do you feel that it's lack of awareness on the part of a consumer to some extent, of not knowing what is covered, what is not covered? So is there scope for simpler policies? Of course, you can add on a lot to them, but do you think there is need for a simple, basic health policy that would be easier for people to understand as to what is covered and what is not?
You have you are talking about something that is so close to my heart, because we as an insurance, when we started out our journey, we said we are another insurance company, we are a digital insurance company, but beyond that, what is our purpose, what is our raison d'etre, what are we bringing to the market? So then we said, what doesn't exist in the market? And you're right, despite 2 decades of liberalization, the consumer still did not want to engage, interact with the insurance industry. In fact, the thought of filing a claim filled them with dread. So we realized that it's not the what, we do pay claims, it's the how that is a problem. It's not just about saying मैंने तो claim pay किया. अगर आपने बहुत तकलीफ दे के 1000 क्वेश्चन पूछ के claim pay किया, तो customer will feel that यार अच्छा था, we shouldn't have. So we realized that we have to address the how. The what is hygiene. We have to address the how. And therefore, we crafted our vision saying that we want to reimagine insurance to make it easy, friendly, and transparent. These are 3 adjectives that are not used in context of insurance. And therefore, one of the things that in health insurance, you're absolutely right. There is a need for a really, really simple health insurance product that tells the person you will get this much no matter what, you will get it within this time, and you will just have to do these 1, 2, 3, 4 things. That's it. And you will not get this. The problem is that we created transparency, but transparency and simplicity are 2 different things. In the interest of transparency, we've created something called a customer information sheet. But even that sheet is 2-3 pages long, right? Who in today's day and age has the ability to read stuff that is 2-3 pages long? So actually, our internal mandate within our company is to endeavor to create a 1-page policy for health insurance where I will tell the customer that this is what you get and this is what you don't get. And I, for one, have told my team, if you have more than 4 or 5 max lines of what you don't get, that's it. The customer will not understand. So there is a huge need for simplicity. And what are the biggest pain points? Since you mentioned, what are the biggest pain points when it comes to health claims? One is that when I go into the hospital, I'm completely at a loss. If you've not gone into a hospital, you don't know there is a TPA center, there's an insurance claim, then udhar se mujhe ek pre-auth milega. Pre-auth will not be for the entire amount, it will be for half. And then I will have to get a discharge slip, go pay down, then again. So this entire process is very overwhelming and nobody explains or demystifies it for the customer. So that's one. The second problem happens is that person is told कि आपका claim pay होगा. But in this, there is some component called non-medicals, okay, which is not very clearly called out or defined anywhere. So this amount is a little ambiguous, and therefore when at the end any amount gets deducted, then the customer faces dissonance at what is this amount? I thought everything was covered. And then of course there is this entire element of time. And what the customer doesn't understand probably is that the time is largely contributed by the hospitals. If people complain, typically people complain, it took me 4-5 hours to get discharged. But in that 4-5 hours, maybe the insurance company or the TPA took 1 hour. The balance was all the hospital's internal process. So, one, there is a need for a simple product for sure, which if we simplify it, in my opinion, to 1 page, then we can expect or hold customers accountable to read the document. If I'm giving them 5 pages and expecting that they will go through it and understand it, I think it's asking for too much. That's number one. Second, in terms of the process, the entire claims process, rather not just the claims, the hospitalization process, it needs to be explained to people. They don't know. Hopefully, they don't encounter it many times in their life. So if you build expectation around what will happen at what point, it gives a lot of ease and comfort to the customer. Most of the problem is dissonance between what is expected and what happens, or what they don't know. So for at our organization, for instance, Vivek, we've created something what we call a claims concierge desk. So the moment we get a claim, first we send a communication saying this is how your entire hospitalization journey will progress. Not just about claims, but about the hospitalization. You know that there's a discharge slip, you will have to go down, then the approval will happen, you'll have to pay again, you'll have to go up and show that, and then the hospital. So this entire process is explained in a letter. We give a number saying, please call us if you have questions. We also try and call out people to explain everything, saying that don't worry, we will take you through this entire process. If you have questions, just ask. Doing this helped us improve our NPS on health claims. So this was the third thing I think is about how much you get. There are products that allow you to have zero deductibles. So those products are there, but they are expensive. So you could either have those products, or you have very clear saying this is my view is that either you have everything covered, or you tell the customer that a fixed percentage or a fixed amount will not be covered. If you leave it open, saying that these kind of things will not be covered, then it's very unpredictable for the customer. They also don't know how much money that they should get. So I am a firm believer in certainty and clarity. So it's better to tell a customer saying that 5% आपको अपने से देना पड़ेगा, 5% will be copay, or 10% will be copay, whatever it is, the customer, rather than saying everything is covered, only some non-medicals are not covered. So that, to me, the former is better. In fact, abroad, they have these kind of policies in US, for instance, where a fixed amount, so they have a high deductible, like they will say that, especially for the missing middle who can afford maybe a certain amount of expense on their own, saying that above this in a year, any expense on medical will be borne. So that kind of, I think those kind of products that give certainty in terms of how much they will get is very much needed. And we shouldn't have too many sublimits, like we say a sublimit for this disease, sublimit for PD, sublimit for, so that was also confusing. So to my mind, if we address one, the simplicity of the product, we address the point of how we handle the claim in terms of what we say, how many times we ask them for anything, etc. If we handle the point of being able to explain to the person what to expect, and to create certainty of amount and time, saying if you tell them that आपको approval post final claim का 1 घंटे में मिल जाएगा, then वो 1 घंटा करो. Don't promise 10 minutes, but do 1 hour and live up to 1 hour. Then they can factor it all in. But this is where I think we as an industry are struggling. And of course, like I said, when health claims exchange or ABDHM platform gets fully realized, then this process will be much, much more smooth, much smoother.
Let's talk about premiums. I mean, recently, I think because during COVID, the industry and the regulator decided not to burden people anymore, and therefore, kept premium rates on hold. I'm given to understand there's been almost like a 15% kind of a jump, depending on which age group and, which policy you have. At the same time, healthcare inflation continues to be in double digits, and which is why perhaps financial planners have always been saying that, look, you have to buy a health insurance first, and a group cover is not enough. Where do you see premiums going from here? Do you foresee a continuing increase? Do you see, with the pool of people, if it expands, if all of what you mentioned actually happens, would you say that, there could be a scope for lesser increases? How do you see premiums going forward?
So there are upward and downward pressures, okay? Upward, like you said, is inflationary pressure. So every time there's medical inflation is very high in our country right now. And that was largely the reason that everyone was driven to reprice products. The other thing is, I think also why the quantum may have been high is that currently regulations allow you to reprice products once in 3 years. So, 3 years inflation is adjusted, right? So that is also, that could be another reason why people were shocked with the premiums. But the downward, like you said, what will bring it down possibly or moderate the impact of inflation? One is more people. So definitely getting more people into the pool is definitely one thing. And the second is reducing leakage due to fraud and wrong claims. So both these things can potentially bring down. And there is a third thing where we are hoping that as an industry, we are able to come together. You must have heard of this initiative by the industry to create a one network for the entire industry, cashless network. So the attempt is to create one network and also collectively discuss with the hospital networks to have better pricing. So if that also happens, then all these three can partially mitigate the impact of inflation and therefore maybe moderate the increases that will be there.
One final question, Shanai, and you talked earlier about global trends, and in fact, if you see global markets, I mean, people, the first thing they negotiate when they are leaving a job for another is their health insurance. And I think that increasingly in India too, people are going to realize that, because the days of, while of course someone like you, very impressive that you've hardly been at 4 or 5 places across 25 years, but I think today's youngsters would probably finish that in a year. But the point is that, I think increasingly, with the kind of environment we are moving into, there is high growth, good salaries, but also the layoffs and the, corresponding situations. Do you see a greater reason for people, young people, to get themselves a health insurance cover of their own, not of their company, and make sure they keep topping it up as they go along, the benefits of doing it early?
100, absolutely. Young people should get covered early. I wouldn't say premiums are low. Of course, they are low. That's obvious. Premiums are low. But the one thing that India offers that no one else offers is lifetime renewability. So no matter what happens to you later on in life, insurer cannot refuse to renew your policy. So they will have to give you that renewal. Imagine, later on in life, if you have a heart episode and you try and take insurance then, not only is the premium going to be high, you possibly will find it very difficult to find someone who will accept that. So it's not just about getting insurance, but it's also covering that exists. When you're young, you don't have these problems, right? But who's to say what future holds for you? You may have some of these problems. So start it young so that by the time you reach an age where potentially you could have these problems, everything is covered and covered lifelong. So every youngster should think of that. Suppose, let me not be overly optimistic and say people will start at 25, but if you're 28 and you buy it, by the time you're 30, 31, all the wait periods, everything is gone. So after 31, anything happens to you, it will be covered. And with, NCBs, your sum insured increases. And to completely protect yourself, have a base policy and have a top up. So that the top up gets triggered if the base policy gets exhausted, and top ups are very cheap. So this is absolutely essential, not for today, but for future. Like people keep on saying, think of your retirement plan for the future. This is exactly that. Think of your long-term health, because when you're older, you will have some health problem or the other. You will need this. And at that time, you don't want to be looking. Unfortunately, there are many very, very well educated people who realize, wake up when it's too late, wake up after they have a heart attack and say, now I think I should buy a health insurance. But, too late, unfortunately. So I really wish that the youngsters today get that. Secondly, about not being covered by a corporate, absolutely. In fact, even today, I tell all my friends, I'm so surprised so many of my friends don't have health insurance. I tell them all the time that it doesn't matter your company is covering it or not. It doesn't matter. Have one for the same reasons I just explained to you. You may switch jobs, you may have a period of even 5 days where you're not covered. Do you want to take that chance at all? And it's just not worth it. So, absolutely, definitely have a cover. And I would tell everyone to have a base cover and a top up cover, apps, which they can rely on for themselves. It's an investment in your future.
Been a pleasure speaking to you, Shanai. I sincerely hope we can keep this conversation going. And there's so much to talk about
Yeah.
On different aspects of insurance, because I think we focus so much on building wealth. It's more important also to protect it, because what's the point that you build so much wealth and in one disease, one stroke, it all just goes off. Thank you so much, Shanai, for taking time out. And I wish you all the very best in your endeavor to bring insurance to every citizen of India. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vivek. It was a pleasure talking to you.